The night the temperature plunged faster than anyone thought possible, the town learned the cruel difference between comfort and survival. Thermometers cracked, heaters failed, and the wind cut through wooden walls like a blade. Cars were abandoned mid-road, pipes burst in minutes, and fear spread house to house. Yet on a lonely ridge outside town, a strange round stone cabin glowed softly in the dark, holding steady at 55 degrees, while everything else froze solid. And inside that quiet circle, a warm sat a veteran and his dog who had been laughed at for years. If you believe in the silent hero, in second chances, and in people who prepare quietly while the world doubts them, take a moment now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that strength is often hidden in plain sight. The veteran's name was Thomas Reed, a man who returned from service carrying memories heavier than any pack he had ever worn. He came back to the United States with a limp in one leg and a deeper wound in his spirit, one that made crowds feel dangerous and noise feel like an attack. The town welcomed him briefly, then moved on. Jobs slipped through his hands because sleep never stayed long, and patience ran thin on both sides. Eventually, Thomas sold his small house and bought a rocky piece of land no one wanted, far enough away that no one would complain about what he planned to build. People watched with curiosity at first, then amusement. Thomas did not build a normal cabin. He built it round, stone by stone, using an old design he had once seen in a forgotten manual during training. Thick walls, curved shape, low profile against the wind. Neighbors joked that it looked like something from another century. They said it would be dark, damp, and useless in winter. Thomas never explained himself. He had learned long ago that explanations were wasted on people who had already decided you were broken. His dog, Bear, was with him every step of the way. Bear had been rescued from a shelter, listed as aggressive simply because he was large and silent. Thomas saw himself in that description. Bear followed him patiently, carrying small tools in a pack, lying against the stones at night to keep Thomas warm as the walls slowly rose. They worked through summers and winters, through aching joints and lonely nights, building something that felt solid in a world that never did. Inside the cabin, Thomas focused on details others ignored. He built the hearth deep into the stone, designed airflow to circulate heat naturally, and sealed every joint with care. The round shape meant wind slid around the walls instead of slamming into them. Heat had nowhere to escape easily. Stone absorbed warmth during the day and released it slowly through the night. These were not accidents. They were lessons learned the hard way, from cold nights overseas when mistakes cost lives. The town continued to grow around him, faster, cheaper, more modern. Houses went up quickly, built with thin walls and shallow foundations. They looked warm and inviting, until the winter that changed everything arrived. That winter was unlike anything the town remembered. Arctic air rolled in without warning. Snow came sideways, driven by winds that howled like something alive. The temperature dropped so fast that power lines iced over before crews could respond. Within hours, heaters failed across the town. Families huddled together, wrapping children in coats, watching their breath fog the air inside their own living rooms. Emergency shelters filled quickly. Roads became impassable. The cold did not care who you were or how near your house was. It crept in through every weakness. On the ridge, Thomas checked his thermometer and nodded once. 55 degrees. Stable. Bear lay near the hearth, calm, alert, unafraid. Thomas had prepared for this, not because he wanted to be right, but because he knew winter did not forgive hope without planning. As radio reports crackled in and out, Thomas heard about families stuck without heat, elderly residents in danger, children shivering through the night. The familiar weight settled in his chest. In the service, he had learned that when conditions turned deadly, waiting was not an option. He packed supplies, layered clothing, and stepped into the storm with Bear leading the way. Snow reached his knees in places. Wind burned his face raw, but the stone cabin stood behind him like an anchor, waiting. Thomas moved from house to house, checking on people, sharing firewood, guiding those who could not stay toward the ridge. Many were shocked to see him. Some barely recognized the quiet man they once ignored. Pride fell away quickly in the face of freezing fear. By the second night, the The round stone cabin was full. Families sat along the curved walls, hands wrapped around warm mugs. Children slept without shivering for the first time in days. The temperature inside barely shifted, the stone doing exactly what Thomas had trusted it to do. Bear moved slowly among them, a silent presence that made people feel safer without knowing why. Outside, the town froze. Inside the cabin, life continued. Thomas did not sleep much. He tended the fire, checked the walls, reassured people with actions instead of words. Old instincts guided him, the same ones that had kept him alive before. No one laughed now. No one questioned the shape of the walls or the thickness of the stone. When the storm finally broke, rescue crews arrived to find the town exhausted and shaken, but alive. They traced the stories back to the ridge, to the strange round cabin that had stayed warm while everything else failed. Reporters came. Officials asked questions. Everyone wanted to understand how one small structure had outperformed modern homes by such a margin. Thomas explained simply. He spoke about respect for nature, about designs meant to work with the environment instead of against it. He talked about patience, preparation, and learning from the past instead of dismissing it. He never mentioned the laughter, the jokes, or the loneliness. The town listened differently now. In the weeks that followed, people brought supplies to the ridge, not out of charity, but gratitude. Builders asked Thomas questions. Plans were redrawn. Insulation improved. Emergency systems updated. The round stone cabin became a lesson written in stone, one that could not be ignored. Thomas did not seek recognition. He returned to his routines, fixing small things, walking with Bear at sunrise, enjoying the quiet warmth of a place that finally felt safe. For the first time in years, the nightmares came less often. The cabin had not just protected bodies. It had given Thomas something he thought he had lost forever. Proof that his way of thinking still mattered. Bear grew older that year, his muzzle dusted with gray. Thomas adjusted the hearth, so Bear could sleep closer to the warmth. On cold nights, Thomas rested his hand on Bear's side, feeling the steady rise and fall, grateful beyond words. Just before the ending, take a moment to comment below and share what part of the story stayed with you the most. Your voice might help someone else see value in what they've been told is strange or useless. When the next winter came, the town was ready. Houses were reinforced. Emergency plans practiced. And on the ridge, the round stone cabin still stood, quiet and warm, holding steady against the cold. It was never about being smarter than others. It was about remembering that sometimes the old ways endure for a reason, and sometimes